Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with chicken noodle soup. Remember that book, Chicken Noodle Soup for the Soul, or something like that? This is that, only we skipped the whole book step. So all the delicious benefits with none of that annoying reading. And of course, I'm sure you remember a couple days ago we made our amazing roasted chicken broth. So it's off to finish the recipe, and we're going to do that with some mirepoix, diced carrots, celery, and onions. And once those are prepped, we're going to melt some butter in a soup pot, a couple tablespoons of whole butter. We have this over medium heat. When it melts and just thinks about turning golden brown, you're going to dump in your vegetables. You're going to throw in a pinch of salt. I'm also going to put in a small pinch of fresh thyme. That's the only herb I'm going to put in this. Give it a stir. And then we're going to add 1 tablespoon of that reserved chicken fat. So if you remember when we made the broth, and we were skimming the fat from the top, I had you save a little bit, and we're going to use a little bit of that chicken fat to saute these vegetables. And like I said, I believe that's referred to as schmaltz. So yes, when they call a singer schmaltzy, they're basically saying, your music's kind of chicken fatty. So we're going to give that a stir, and we're going to cook that in the butter and the schmaltz for about 5 minutes, 6 minutes or so, until the onions kind of soften and turn translucent. At that point, go ahead and dump in your 2 quarts of chicken broth. So it can be just a regular unroasted chicken stock, but I really think the roasted broth just really works better here. We're going to crank the heat to the highest setting, and we want to bring this up to a rolling boil, all right, because it's time to cook the noodles. Speaking of which, here they are. I think you should use classic wide egg noodles, and not too much either. This is only 4 ounces of noodle. All right, you have to have the right proportion of noodle to broth to chicken. I'm going to break them up a little bit. I don't want them too long. All right, I want them short enough to be kind of user-friendly and comforting, yet I still want them to be long enough to slap me in the cheek if I need it. So our noodles are measured out. Of course, we're going to check for salt before we add these noodles. I don't want to boil noodles in a bland broth. So taste it here, adjust for salt, then dump in the noodles, give them a stir, leave it on high heat, and boil that for 5 minutes. All right, and that's going to cook those about 75% of the way. While we're waiting, that 5 minutes will give you the perfect opportunity to cut up your chicken that we reserved, that beautiful, moist, perfectly cooked chicken breast. So at this point, our noodles have been boiling for 5 minutes. We're going to dump in the chicken. We're going to give that a stir. And 5 minutes later, you will have the most delicious chicken noodle soup you've ever experienced in your life, and that's a guarantee. And if it's not, well, what do you want me to do? These videos are free. Okay, so 5 minutes later, the chicken is heated through, the noodles are cooked, and we are down to final seasoning. Maybe a little more salt, maybe some black pepper. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, maybe a little cayenne. Stir that in. And now, while I really hope you follow this recipe basically to a T, it's soup. So if you have a few mushrooms in the fridge that you need to get rid of, all right, or half a red bell pepper that's past its prime, try saying that 3 times fast. Go ahead and dice it up and throw it in. But when I want a real chicken noodle soup, I tend to keep it very straightforward like this. And that is ready for the ladle. Dish that up. Do not try to garnish it with anything. You're just going to wreck it. And again, you might be thinking, why not use a smaller noodle or macaroni? Wouldn't it be easier to eat? That's not the point. Chicken noodle soup is not a recipe. It's a meditation. And part of the magic, part of the medicine, is you sitting in front of that steaming bowl, smelling the goodness, cutting noodles with your spoon, and trying to get them in your face without burning your chin. It's all part of the experience, so don't cheat yourself of that. Anyway, I really hope you give that a try. All the ingredient amounts are on foodwishes.com, along with more info, as usual. And as always, enjoy.